In a world plagued by conflict and political polarization, few names command global headlines quite like Donald J. Trump. Whether you're a supporter or a critic, one thing remains constant: his words echo far and wide. And when Trump speaks on war and peace, the world listens. But what happens when he is accused of siding with a longtime U.S. adversary? Just days ago, the former U.S. president, now a dominant Republican frontrunner once again, broke his silence over renewed criticisms that he's been soft on Russia. The accusations? That he sides more with Vladimir Putin than with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, the leader of a country still ravaged by invasion. Let me tell you something. I don't side with Russia. I don't side with Ukraine. I side with stopping the killing. I only care about saving lives. With those few words, Trump has reignited the global conversation. Was this a signal of neutrality? A sign of strength? Or something more controversial? In this special report, we unpack what Trump really meant and how his reaction is being interpreted by political leaders, military analysts, and citizens around the world. The accusations didn't come out of thin air. They've been festering since the earliest days of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. From the moment tanks rolled across the border, pundits and politicians alike asked, what would Trump have done? Some pointed to Trump's past comments praising Putin's intelligence. Others recalled how he once withheld military aid to Ukraine, a move that led to his first impeachment. The message was clear for critics: Trump couldn't be trusted to stand with Ukraine. There's this idea that Trump has an admiration for strongmen, and that colors how he deals with global conflicts. But supporters push back just as strongly. They say Trump is misunderstood, that his strategy of deterrence kept major wars at bay. Under Trump, Putin didn't invade a single country. Biden gets in, and boom, Russia's back on the offensive. That's not a coincidence. So when Trump finally made a statement addressing the latest claim, that he sides more with Russia, it was bound to make waves. It was during a high-profile town hall event in South Carolina that the bombshell moment dropped. A question from the audience asked whether he sympathized more with Russia's position than Ukraine's. People love to take sides in war. I get it. But I'm not playing that game. Because while they're fighting, children are dying. Cities are being flattened. And no one talks about peace. I care about one thing: ending the bloodshed. Mainstream media outlets were quick to frame the response as evasive, or worse, indifferent to the suffering of the Ukrainian people. Social media, as always, was a battlefield. At Progressive Voice, Trump still won't condemn Putin. What more proof do we need? At America First 2024, Trump is the only one with the guts to say the truth: peace matters more than politics. The moment had become more than a comment, it was a lightning rod. So what is Trump's real foreign policy stance? And what's his game plan if he returns to the White House? Trump insists that the war in Ukraine would have never happened under his leadership. He's said it repeatedly, in interviews, on Truth Social, and at campaign rallies. I had a relationship with Putin. I told him very clearly, if you make a move, the consequences will be swift. He believed me. Biden? Not so much. To many voters, Trump's confidence is reassuring. He presents himself as a dealmaker, someone who can get Ukraine and Russia to the table without dragging America into another endless war. It's an interesting angle. He's not wrong to say peace talks have been sidelined. But real diplomacy requires credibility, and some would say Trump's credibility on the world stage is inconsistent. The Biden administration didn't waste time responding. In an official statement, a National Security Council spokesperson said, "The United States supports Ukraine's fight for sovereignty and democracy. Any suggestion that this is a conflict of equal sides is deeply flawed." Privately, officials expressed concern that Trump's comments could undermine NATO unity. In fact, some European allies were reportedly alarmed that a former U.S. president, and possible future one, appear neutral in a conflict that has reshaped European security. There's a clear aggressor here: Russia. And we must stand firm with Ukraine. That's what leadership looks like. But Trump pushed back again during a radio interview the following morning. What's leadership? Starting World War III? What's leadership? Giving billions in weapons but not even trying to end the war diplomatically? I'll tell you what real leadership is: keeping Americans out of wars and stopping the death toll. That's what I care about. Trump's statement, "I only care about saving lives," might sound noble. But in geopolitics, words matter. A lot. To some, it was a moral stand. To others, a troubling refusal to denounce tyranny. Critics argue that by focusing solely on the human cost without condemning the aggressor, Trump gives Putin a pass. When leaders speak ambiguously, it emboldens invaders. Ukraine doesn't need neutrality. We need clarity and justice. But Trump's camp argues the exact opposite. What President Trump understands is that peace requires strength and willingness to listen. He wants both sides to stop fighting, not take sides in a forever war. A Snap poll conducted after the town hall revealed a striking divide. 61% of Republicans agreed with Trump's view that saving lives should be the priority. 72% of Democrats said his response was morally weak. 47% of independents found his stance thoughtful, but concerning. Clearly, the issue taps into deeper questions. What is America's role in foreign wars? And can peace ever be brokered by someone who refuses to pick a side? I'm no fan of Putin, but I'm tired of sending money overseas while our own cities fall apart. If Trump can end this thing, I say let him try. As the war in Ukraine drags on with no clear end in sight, Trump's words reverberate around the world. Some call him reckless. Others call him a peacemaker. But one thing is certain, in a world desperate for peace, "I only care about saving lives," might be the most provocative thing a politician can say. In the aftermath of Trump's viral town hall response, his campaign team went into strategy mode. The world had heard his words. "I only care about saving lives." But what does that mean in practice? Can a former president, now seeking re-election, shape the course of an ongoing war? Behind closed doors, Trump's top advisors are working tirelessly to craft a coherent message. Not just to the American people, but to the world. At Trump's Florida estate, Mar-a-Lago, discussions are in full swing. From retired generals to foreign policy consultants, his inner circle is crafting a doctrine they believe could reshape the global conflict. He doesn't want to sound anti-Ukraine. But he also doesn't want to play Biden's game of open-ended military aid. Trump believes peace is possible, but only if someone strong enough says enough. Sources close to the former president say he's floated the idea of a 48-hour ceasefire ultimatum, a plan in which he would personally call both Zelensky and Putin within days of taking office and demand they come to the table. "I know these guys. I've dealt with both. They'll listen to me." Biden? He's reading off note cards. It's classic Trump, bold, theatrical, and controversial. Critics often highlight Trump's past remarks about autocratic leaders. From Kim Jong-un to Vladimir Putin, Trump has expressed admiration for their strength, a word that draws both applause and alarm. But his defenders insist that these relationships are strategic, not ideological. You don't get peace by insulting everyone. Trump speaks to power with power. And that's why these guys listen. The real question, could this unorthodox diplomacy work in Ukraine? We welcome any serious plan to stop the war, but not one that pretends both sides are equally at fault. Ukraine was invaded. That matters. Yet Trump maintains that focusing too much on blame, and not enough on resolution, is prolonging the agony. One of the boldest proposals floated by Trump's camp is an emergency peace summit, potentially hosted in a neutral location like Switzerland or even Jerusalem. Proposal: Trump invites Putin and Zelensky for a private negotiation. No press. Just results. Goal: immediate ceasefire, framework for long-term peace. If successful, it could go down as one of the most remarkable diplomatic feats in modern history. But critics are wary. They argue that the move could legitimize Putin's actions and pressure Ukraine into concessions. Peace must not come at the price of justice. Our sovereignty is not negotiable. Still, Trump's pitch is gaining traction with war-weary Americans. Over $100 billion in U.S. aid has flowed to Ukraine since 2022, and voters are beginning to ask, when does it end? For many American households, the war in Ukraine isn't just a distant conflict, it's a source of inflation, economic anxiety, and budget fatigue. We're sending billions to Ukraine while our own cities rot, while veterans sleep on the streets, and our border is wide open. I'll say it again, I only care about saving lives, American lives too. Trump's message is clear, America first again. To voters struggling with rent, groceries, and gas prices, it's a powerful argument. I'm not saying Ukraine doesn't matter. But I've got 3 kids and 2 jobs. Let Europe handle it. It's a sentiment that's increasingly hard to ignore. As Trump's rhetoric gains steam, European leaders are on edge. In Brussels, diplomats worry that Trump's re-election could fracture the transatlantic alliance. NATO relies heavily on U.S. leadership, and Trump's past threats to pull out of NATO still haunt them. Peace cannot be dictated by television slogans. It must be forged through unity and resolve. The fear is that Trump will abandon Ukraine, and by extension, the security of all Europe. But not all voices are critical. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, a right-wing ally of Trump, said, "President Trump is the only man who can end this war in 24 hours. The world needs him back." The 2024 U.S. election may very well be a referendum on war and peace. Democracy is on the line. Joe Biden stood with Ukraine. Donald Trump stands with chaos. Gas prices up. War abroad. Division at home. America needs a dealmaker, not a warmonger. It's a clash of ideologies, one rooted in legacy internationalism, the other in transactional diplomacy. And the world is watching. While Trump has avoided openly condemning Putin in harsh terms, he has laid down what he calls a red line for both sides. If either side targets civilians with chemical or nuclear weapons, I'll take swift action. You can bet on that. It's the most forceful statement he's made yet, suggesting he's not entirely neutral, but deeply strategic. Experts caution that any peace plan must consider escalation triggers and avoid superficial deals. You don't just snap your fingers and end war. You need logistics, trust, and enforcement mechanisms. Otherwise, peace is just a photo op. There's a deeper philosophical question beneath the headlines. Is it morally responsible to stay neutral in the face of aggression? Staying silent, or neutral, when a democratic country is being attacked is a betrayal of basic principles. Saving lives includes standing for what's right. But Trump's supporters argue that endless wars aren't moral either. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, not the armchair warriors." Trump wants to stop the dying. That's godly leadership. As we inch closer to election season, Trump's comments continue to stir debate. "I only care about saving lives" may sound simple, but behind it lies a complex doctrine that could shift global alliances. If Trump wins, will he really call Putin and Zelensky on day one? Will peace talks happen? Or will the reality of geopolitics catch up with his bold promises? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear, in a time of war, every word matters. I don't want to pick sides. I want to end the war. I want the killing to stop. I want peace. We've heard the statement. I only care about saving lives. We've seen the criticism, the media frenzy, and the political division it sparked. But what would it actually look like if Donald Trump got his way? In this segment, we take you beyond the rhetoric, into the tactical blueprint of what a Trump-led Ukraine-Russia peace process might actually entail. Is it even realistic? Or is it another grand Trumpian performance? Sources close to Trump confirm that his Day One plan involves 2 major phone calls, not to NATO, not to the UN, but directly to Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. "I'll get on the phone, and in 2 minutes they'll know I mean business. No more games. Just results." This step, according to insiders, would involve a dramatic show of force, the former president asserting himself as a neutral but dominant player in the talks. Trump to Putin. "You want sanctions gone? Prove you want peace." Trump to Zelensky. You want U.S. support to continue? Come to the table. It's the art of the deal, military edition. Trump's approach is transactional. He'll use leverage, not alliances. That's dangerous, but also potentially effective. According to leaked documents from a policy think tank advising the Trump campaign, the next step involves pushing for a 72-hour conflict freeze. What does that mean? No new strikes from either side. No advancing of troops. Humanitarian corridors opened under international observation. This freeze would give way to emergency talks. Not at the UN, but on Trump's terms, possibly hosted in Jerusalem, Doha, or even Geneva. You stop the bombs, you start the talks. That's how grown men negotiate. Trump's proposed format would be unconventional. No large delegations, no press pools, no lengthy media statements. Just 3 rooms. One for Ukraine. One for Russia. One for Trump and his mediators. Like a reality show for geopolitics, Trump would move between rooms, a format insiders say would be faster, less performative, and more results-driven. It's like shuttle diplomacy meets The Apprentice. Unfiltered, high stakes, and totally in Trump's wheelhouse. But critics worry that such a structure lacks the transparency and formal accountability needed in high-level diplomacy. There's no oversight. No treaty structure. Just a handshake and hope. So what kind of deal is Trump allegedly envisioning? While details are speculative, 3 main pillars keep surfacing. Immediate ceasefire agreement. Both sides agree to halt active military campaigns. Territorial status quo freeze. Russia keeps current positions temporarily, but negotiations continue over long-term status. International peacekeeping deployment. Neutral forces, possibly from India, Brazil, and Turkey, are deployed to de-escalate tensions in disputed zones. It's not about who wins, it's about who lives. Critics call it a de facto reward for Russian aggression. Supporters call it realpolitik in action. There's one glaring problem. Would Ukraine agree to any of this? Zelensky has repeatedly said that he will never cede an inch of Ukrainian land, including Crimea and the Donbass region. Our people did not die for half measures. Peace must come with justice. A Trump-style deal, many say, would likely pressure Ukraine to make painful concessions. And some warn that it could fracture their internal unity. This isn't a business transaction. It's our country. Our children. Our future. But others in Ukraine, particularly war-weary citizens in hard-hit regions, say they'd support any plan that stops the bombing. And what about Vladimir Putin? Would he actually negotiate with Trump, and on what terms? Putin's past behavior shows he values strongman diplomacy. He sees himself as a chess master on the world stage, and Trump, in his view, may be one of the few opponents worthy of a match. Donald Trump is a man who knows how to defend his country's interests. If Trump offers sanctions relief, diplomatic legitimacy, or security guarantees in exchange for withdrawal or restraint, there's a chance Putin might play ball. Trump understands leverage. He'd offer the carrot, but he'll show the stick too. Putin respects that. Any Trump-driven deal would also face resistance from NATO, particularly Eastern European countries like Poland and the Baltics, who fear appeasement will invite future aggression. We cannot normalize what should never be normalized: invasion, occupation, and war crimes. There's also concern that Trump might use peace talks as a way to reduce U.S. support for NATO altogether, a long-held suspicion since his first term. Trump sees NATO as a bill, not a bond. That's a problem when dealing with collective defense. But Trump insists he simply wants allies to pay their fair share and avoid World War III. Trump's peace plan is rooted in his signature foreign policy vision, America First. But where is the line between that and isolationism? I'm not saying we don't lead. I'm saying we stop dying for other people's borders while ours are wide open. To many, that's refreshing honesty. To others, it's a dangerous retreat from global responsibility. There's a difference between ending wars and abandoning values. Trump needs to walk that line very carefully. Amid the geopolitical calculus, there's a deeper emotional, even spiritual, appeal in Trump's message. He doesn't talk about national interests. He doesn't frame it as democracy versus dictatorship. He says, "I only care about saving lives. In the eyes of God, every life matters. Ukrainian, Russian, American. Peacemaker is not a weak title, it's a holy one. I don't care how many critics scream. If Trump can stop the killing, that's all I need to hear." But the simplicity of the message clashes with the complexity of the war. What if Trump's plan fails? What if Putin manipulates the process? What if Ukraine feels betrayed? What if peace talks buy time for Russia to regroup? These are the stakes, and they're enormous. If you give ground without guarantees, you're not ending the war. You're just delaying the next one. Still, Trump says the biggest risk is continuing the status quo. You want risk? I'll show you risk. A world at war because no one had the courage to say stop. So is it bold vision, or naive ambition? Can Trump really forge peace through deal-making, or would his plan crumble under the weight of geopolitics? We explore those questions in the final installment of this report. Part 4, The Verdict. Can Trump really end the Ukraine war? Over the past 3 parts, we've traced Donald Trump's controversial statement, "I only care about saving lives," from headline to hypothetical. We've examined the politics, the plans, the promises. But the question still lingers. Can Trump really end the war in Ukraine? And perhaps more urgently, does he even want to? In this final chapter, we weigh the evidence, examine the political stakes, and hear from both critics and believers in a truth-seeking mission that asks, is Trump's message one of real peace or political theater? To evaluate Trump's chances of ending the war, we must examine his record. As president from 2017 to 2021, Trump dealt with various hotspots: North Korea, Syria, Iran. But notably, no major wars started under his watch. Supporters hailed this as proof. They called him reckless. But no one dared to test him. Peace through strength works. Critics, however, point to inconsistencies. Incoherent foreign policy memos. Public clashes with NATO. Abandonment of the Kurds in Syria. The killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, which nearly sparked a regional war. Former State Department official. Trump's instincts are transactional, not strategic. That's fine in real estate. But in geopolitics, the consequences are permanent. So, does credibility matter? Can trust be rebuilt, especially with leaders like Putin and Zelensky? Poll after poll shows it, Americans are split. A growing number of Republicans want to end U.S. aid to Ukraine. Democrats remain largely in support of Ukraine's sovereignty. Independents? They just want the war to stop. The key issue isn't ideology, it's fatigue. Americans are tired of war they don't understand and bills they didn't approve. This gives Trump an opening, but it also creates pressure. His words must not only appeal to his base but convince moderates and swing voters he's serious and capable. While politicians debate abroad, Ukraine is bleeding. Over 10 million displaced. Entire cities reduced to rubble. And a generation of children growing up under the sound of sirens. We want peace, but not surrender. This is where Trump's approach draws fire. Critics say his push for neutrality ignores the emotional weight of invasion, that it dilutes the sacrifices made by Ukrainians. You cannot mediate murder. You condemn it. Or you enable it. But others say the longer the war drags on, the more lives are lost, and that true leadership means stopping the bleeding, not just honoring the fallen. And what of Putin? His goals are opaque, his actions ruthless. Would he actually engage with Trump in good faith, or simply exploit the negotiations to strengthen his position? Putin respects strength. He would test Trump. But he also fears unpredictability, and Trump is very unpredictable. Some warn that Trump's eagerness for a deal could be manipulated. Others believe that very unpredictability is Trump's weapon. Putin would rather face someone predictable, like Biden. With Trump, he's unsure, and that alone is a form of leverage. Donald Trump has always seen himself as the dealmaker-in-chief. And nothing would cement that legacy more than ending the deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II. Imagine the headlines. Trump ends Ukraine war in 72 hours. Ceasefire brokered by U.S. President-elect. Putin and Zelensky shake hands after Trump talks. The optics would be historic. The Nobel Peace Prize conversation would reemerge. His political capital would skyrocket. But peace isn't just optics. It's painstaking, complex, and fragile. You don't fix war with a press release. You fix it with patience, principle, and persistence. And those aren't Trump's strong suits, at least, not according to critics. There's also the darker possibility. What if Trump tries, and fails? What if he pulls out of NATO? What if Russia escalates? What if Ukraine collapses under pressure? Failure could destroy what's left of U.S. credibility. And it might teach other aggressors, in China, Iran, North Korea, that conflict pays. Trump's risk isn't just political, it's historical. Despite the risks, Trump's base remains confident. He ended wars, not started them. He's the only one with the backbone to stare down both sides and say, enough. Biden sends money. Trump will send a message, peace is the only option. Their faith isn't in the system. It's in the man. They believe Trump can succeed because they've seen him defy odds before. But belief doesn't equal outcome, and history is rarely kind to experiments. Whether Trump returns to the White House or not, the seeds have been planted. He has reshaped the conversation. No longer is the Ukraine war framed solely as a battle for democracy. It is now also seen, rightly or wrongly, as a failure of diplomacy. A humanitarian crisis begging for a bold solution. And that is Trump's pitch, boldness. No one else has the guts to say what I'm saying, stop the war. Save the people. Let's make peace. So what is this, really? A genuine effort to stop a war? A political strategy to win swing states? Or both? Critics say Trump is exploiting tragedy for clout. Supporters say he's the only one brave enough to break the cycle. The truth may be somewhere in between. All great peacemakers were controversial. But only a few succeeded. The question is, will Trump be Lincoln? Or just a louder Nixon? In a world haunted by bombs and broken borders, Donald Trump says one thing louder than all. I only care about saving lives. History will decide whether those words were a prophecy of peace, or a headline too good to be true. Share your thoughts below. Can Trump end the war, or is it just another show? Donald Trump breaks his silence on claims that he sides more with Russia than Ukraine. In this detailed documentary-style analysis, we explore Trump's explosive reaction, his peace plan proposals, the global reaction, and what it could mean for the future of the war. Watch until the end to hear the full strategy and the high-stakes risks behind his statement. I only care about saving lives. Do you think Trump can stop the war? Drop a comment.